Welcome to another episode of 3 The Hard Way coming at you. And as always, we got the fellas in the house. We got a guy that I like to call the influencer because he's influencing so many people's lives out there with his podcast. Let's talk about it. Mr. Hot Rod, Rodney Young. Rod, how you doing, man?
Man, I am outstanding. 3 The Hard Way Nation. We gonna keep building and stacking on this thing. I'm ready to roll. Let's do it.
Let's roll, man. And then we got the man with the military background, the captain of our ship, Mr. Terrence Austin T. What's going on, man?
What's up, gentlemen, and what's up, everyone out there in radio airwaves? 3 The Hard Way. What's happening?
All right, fellas. Well, let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to cover today. I'm really happy about this show because there are some topics that I just really want to pick your brain about. We've got a lot of 3 The Hard Way people reaching out, asking a lot of questions, topics that they want us to tackle. So I thought, you know what? This will be a good show to give back to people that take the time to watch our show that maybe have some questions on their own that they would like for us to tackle and answer. So we're going to do that today. But let's tackle some recent news that we've had in the past couple of weeks. I guess we got to start with the NBA playoffs. Halliburton does it again, fellas. He does it again. OKC is finding out the hard way about this young man. He is a dog. He's got to be one of the most clutch players that I've seen in a long time in the NBA. The way he continues to come through for the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers get game 1. What are your thoughts about game 1 in the NBA Finals, fellas?
Let me start it off, Rod, if I could. Rob Parker calls them the Windiana Pacers, okay?
That's right.
The Windiana Pacers. Going back to Windiana, as sung by the Jackson 5.
All right.
Wow. The early narrative was, why did the coach for OKC, not start the big guy, okay? That was an early narrative. However, that seemed to work out.
Overthinking it, T.
Right, overthinking it, yeah. And how would I put it? It worked out because that wasn't the reason why they lost. That wasn't the reason why they lost. One of the reasons why they lost, and you guys know basketball better than I do, all those turnovers, that they took from Indiana, they didn't convert them to points. They did not convert those turnovers to points, and what that did was allow Indiana to just kind of hang around, and we saw what happened in the end, okay? Now, fast forward to today, I don't think, Indiana is going to allow, such a point differential. They're not going to be playing from behind, like they were in the first game. And the thing about it, they still won the game and didn't play all that well. Indiana still won, and it's because of that guy named, Halliburton. It's because of him. He is clutch. He's got ice water in his veins. Now, here's the key. With today, can OKC, this young team, can they bounce back? Can they bounce back? Like Stephen A. say, palms sweaty, butt cheeks get tight. Can they bounce back?
That's right.
Because, their back is against the wall. And Indiana's probably saying, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and take another game from these guys and get on the airplane and head east. So, wow, it was something. But like you say, the coach overthinking it, benching the big guy in the beginning, for matchup reasons. Again, it worked out, but we see what happened in the end. So, hey, OKC, your back is against the wall right now. What are you going to do? How are you going to respond? Go ahead, Rod.
The NBA Finals is about adjustments, and I just feel like, OKC will potentially make the adjustment. My thing is, in game 1, and I think I text L Train on this, I might have hit both of y'all up, Obi Toppin went supernova from the 3-point line.
Yes,
I mean, we can talk about all the other stuff. I'm sitting there watching Obi Toppin. I think he was like 5 for 6 from 3-point land. You don't expect that out of Obi Toppin. Now, I've said quietly to some people around, my parts is if the Cavaliers ever went after somebody, I would go get Obi Toppin. He's the perfect match for Evan Mobley. He can play that 3 where Ev moves, play that 4 where Ev moves to the 5, and he's a stretch big. He's 6'9", and he's coming off the Indiana bench. However, back to the finals, Indiana did a fabulous job. I said this is Tyrese Halliburton's coming out party. because you hit the game winner once, okay, big deal. You hit him twice, all right, let me take a look at you. Well, you hit one in the finals, you got to be reckoned with. And so, I mean, now don't get me wrong, Three the Hard Way Nation. I'm still riding with OKC. All right, I'm not switching. I'm still staying with OKC. However, Indiana's a problem. And if Indiana wins game 2 tonight, they are a big problem.
Big problem.
Okay, but I see SGA.
Really
I see SGA bouncing back. I see them making some defensive changes. Yes, T, you're right. Hartenstein should have started. I don't understand that move. I think the OKC coach overthought himself. He overthought it, and just stay with what got you to the dance. I'm still riding with OKC, but Indiana threw that first punch.
Yeah, and real quick, yeah, OKC normally bounces back after a loss. They normally bounce back, but guess what? This is for all the marbles. Okay, this is the finals. I don't know if they will bounce back this time. Normally they do, but we'll see. It's a bigger stage now, much bigger stage.
Yeah, you've got to dance with the girl that you brought to the dance. And I think that the only time you make an adjustment that's significant if you're OKC is if you see something that caused you some concern in game 1. I don't think you come into game 1 making that a significant change in your lineup. And I think that hurt OKC at times. I think their coach probably will never admit this, but he probably regrets that move because there were times during that game and in those moments where he needed to have that body in there that's normally in there, and they kind of went away from that. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do game 2. I've always believed that when you're in these type of games, these championship type of games, man, you know, you don't want to let opportunities slip through your fingers because they will cost you in the end. It's like we've talked about this to exhaustion about the Cavs, where they had 3 of their key players out for that one game. And I think that ended up costing them because the Cavaliers could have won the game if those guys would have been in there. So it would have created a completely different series. Now OKC, and I'm with you, Rod, I'm not panicking with them. I still am rolling with them in terms of winning the finals, but I think it's going to be a little bit harder. Like, I think that's safe to say because they're down 0-1. But, yeah, not panicking. It's going to be a good series. It's going to be an entertaining series. I'm just so impressed by this Halliburton kid, man, because, you know, not only is he performing at a level, but when his team needs him during clutch moments, man, he seems to be coming through, not sometimes, but every time. And
Move
that's
over,
really
big shot,
impressive.
Bob.
Yeah, he's doing it. He's doing it. He is showing that he is a player in the NBA. And like I said, I knew about Tyrese Halliburton when Sacramento drafted him. And so he's really just coming into his own now, but he's the spoon that stirs the drink in Indiana. And shout out to Indiana. Those guys are playing above their heads right now. The Matherins and, the Obi Toppins and those guys are, they're playing above their heads right now, and they're doing it. That's when we talked about the last couple of weeks. Yeah. Indiana's just peaking right now at the right time. They're just peaking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, it's about waiting and seeing how this series turns out. I think the series has a potential to go to 7. But I knew it was going to be an entertaining series because you got 2 teams that can score the ball. We're going to flip it a little bit and talk about Rodney's favorite subject. I know he's been chomping at the bit to get to this. Aaron Rodgers put the pen to paper with the Pittsburgh Steelers this week pending a physical. I haven't heard whether or not he's passed his physical yet. That will make it official, but he at least signed his contract, got some incentives built in there, got some, guarantees in there, roughly around $13 million without all the incentives and all that type of stuff. Fellas, I'm glad to see the Aaron Rodgers drama over somewhat. But what are your thoughts about the signing from A-Rod this week?
Go ahead, Rod.
I'm just, it's hard for me to find words, but as I've said to you guys, first of all, I believe that this is not a Mike Tomlin call. This is an organizational call. I'm giving Mike Tomlin more credit than that because I believe he deserves that. I respect him as a coach and as a person. And I just don't believe that he signed off on this. I think this was an organizational thing that the Steelers did. Is Aaron Rodgers worth $13 million? With the incentives going in, he can make up to $19 million. I think it's a joke. I think he's held the Steelers hostage. I think it was a desperation move. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I cannot wait for Myles Garrett to come screaming off the edge and just lower the boom on Mr. Rodgers, because this is no longer Mr. Rodgers' neighborhood. He needs to go ahead. It's time for him to walk away, go ahead and get into the booth, or go up there with Pat McAfee and the boys and do his thing every week. I just think it was a desperation move. Yeah, I think it was a desperation move by the Steelers, and I'm just glad that it's over.
Yeah, Rod, the morning that the news, came out, I listened to national programming, our local programming, and like I was telling L Train before you came on, now their schedule looks pretty favorable early on, because the Steelers' defense and the way that they just battle will keep them in games, okay? So they can start out the season 2-1, 3-1. Their first tough matchup is against L Train's Vikings, okay? Against his Vikings. That's their first, tough matchup. We'll see how it goes. Like you, I'm no fan of the Steelers, so I'm not wishing anything good for those guys, whatsoever. However, I always, pull for the black coaches. I root for the black coaches, and I love Mike Tomlin. He's from this area where I live, however, he may be facing his first losing season in 14, 15 seasons by this move. He may be faced with his first losing season. But again, like I say, I'm not rooting for them. Let's see how it all, shakes out. Let's see, what happens. I agree with you. I think this is above the coach's head. I think this is an organizational call. And again, it may look good early on, because like I say, they have a few cupcakes until they, go up against the Vikings early on. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. But I'm not rooting for that team. I never do. We don't root for that team. We're from Cleveland. We don't root for them.
Right. So. I got a question, L Train, but I want to hear your point. Let me tell us what you think.
Man, I'm a little bit different, only because I look at Mike Tomlin. Like, what year is this for Mike Tomlin in terms of coaching?
I think it's 16, 17, something like that.
16, 17, yeah, I'm right there with you. So 16, 17 years, and this man has never had a losing season. And what that says to me is that he is an individual that can handle adversity, obstacles, and find a way to make things work. Now, arguably, he's got his best quarterback that he's had since Ben Roethlisberger. And I am not on the side of the fence where I think Aaron Rodgers is washed up. Aaron Rodgers is garbage. He brings a lot of off-the-field issues to your locker room and to your team. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But in terms of being able to sling that ball, I think he can do that. Probably not like his MVP years, but I still think he has a little bit left in the tank. That is a little bit concerning to me as a Cleveland Browns fan and a Minnesota Vikings fan that has to play Pittsburgh, because Tomlin has found a way to make things work. And I don't think this is going to be any different, fellas. I don't think this is going to be any different. I think the signing makes the Pittsburgh Steelers better on paper. Now, there's a lot of locker room stuff and off-the-field stuff that Aaron Rodgers usually finds a way to make people upset at him. So if that happens, then all bets are off. But if Aaron Rodgers comes in there focused and ready to play some football, I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are a better football team today than they were yesterday.
So I got a question, and T brought this up, and so I'm going to ask this question. So now you've paid Aaron Rodgers, and you'll get into a point of paying him close to $19 million. What do you do with TJ Watt?
Man, that is the $1 million question, Rod. And if I'm TJ Watt, I don't feel good about this.
No.
Because the front office understands that, I'm waiting for my payday, and now you're bringing in a guy with baggage, although a first ballot Hall of Famer, but baggage. And it's almost like you're dismissing the work that I've done with this franchise. So if I'm TJ Watt, I don't have good feelings right now, fellas.
And remember, their defense keeps them in games, okay? And TJ Watt is the head of that defense. He's the head of that defense. However, he's not going to say anything. TJ Watt is going to strap on and play. He's going to play. So he's not going to be a distraction. So let's see, if the Steelers really, really take care of their people. This is they're on the clock as far as do they really, really take care of the pretty girl that got them there. Okay. And that is TJ Watt. That defense keeps them in games.
Now, I hope that goes completely the opposite direction, because I'm not a Steelers fan. But I'm going to be honest with you. I did hear, I was watching the Pat McAfee show, and I did hear JJ. JJ said TJ is not happy at all. Not happy at all that they have not even addressed his contract. And I stand here today and I say that's why they went and got Jack Sawyer from the Ohio State University, because Pittsburgh genuinely does not overpay players. They just don't. They just draft and they find good players in the draft. So don't be surprised that after this season, TJ Watt is somewhere else. Or here's a stunner. TJ Watt is somewhere else before the season ends. Don't be surprised. Okay. Yeah,
JJ knows his brother, but TJ is going to strap on that helmet and play. He's not going to say anything. He's old school. Yeah, but he's going to buckle up and play. He's going to let his play show.
But at the end of the day, as Browns fans, have fun. We don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care.
Yeah. Hey, well, I thought it was a good idea to bring the fans of Three the Hard Way onto the show, because each week after our episodes and, doing my own channel as well, I just get a lot of questions. And, I think we do a good job at really analyzing what we think, whether it's NBA, whether it's WNBA, whether it's NFL. Some of these questions, I'm like, man, these are good questions. I'm going to bring them to the fellas. So I'm going to reach into the mailbag a little bit, throw some questions out there, and we can give some answers to some of our Three the Hard Way fans. This is from Sarah. She is from Florida. And I think she had a really good question. I hadn't really thought about this, but her question was, which off-season quarterback move will backfire the most? Russell Wilson to the Giants, Justin Fields to the Jets, or Sam Darnold to the Seattle Seahawks? Like, which one? If you had to pick one of those to backfire on the organization, I thought it was a good question. I hadn't put any thought in it. But what's your thoughts, fella? If there was one situation that could backfire on a team, which one would it be?
Let me take a shot at it first, Rod. I would have to say the young boy going to the Jets, because I don't know if he has any weapons, okay?
Okay.
I don't know if he has any weapons. And he's a guy that, the Steelers should have kept. I would take Justin Fields in a heartbeat. I would. Again, got off to a bad, rocky start in Chicago because he didn't have anybody to, get him right, teach him right, and, make him right for that job. But if I have to say, for Sarah's question, out of those three, I would have to say, Justin Fields, because I don't think he has any weapons up there in New York.
And Sarah, that's a great question. That is a great question.
Yeah,
but if I had to answer that right now, I'm going to say Sam Darnold. I think he is a flash in the pan. I think Sam Darnold is going to get to Seattle, and we're going to see the real Sam Darnold. He doesn't really have weapons around him. A close second is going to be Russell Wilson. They have nothing in New York. Maybe Malik Neighbors, no disrespect to him, but they don't really have anything. And then Justin Fields, I agree with T. Justin Fields should have never left Pittsburgh. There shouldn't have been a problem him staying in Pittsburgh. I do think he has a weapon, T, and that's Garrett Wilson, who he played with at Ohio State. Their running back is pretty good too, and he slips my name right. It slips my mind right now. But to answer Sarah's question, which once again, kudos to Sarah. That is an awesome question. But I call Sam Darnold.
Now, Rod, one thing you mentioned Neighbors with the Giants. That kid is special, man. He handily beat us, I remember, and a few other.
He made Martin Emerson look like he didn't belong out there. You're right. Man. Yeah, and that's why I said Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors, but
he's nice.
Russell Wilson is done. They want Jackson Dart to take over. I see Jackson Dart taking over sooner than later. But in terms of the money that Seattle spent on Sam Darnold, I see that coming. Sam Darnold's going to implode. I see it.
My answer is the same as yours, Rod. It is Sam Darnold. I saw, chinks in his armor when he played last year for the Vikings. I was very appreciative of the effort that he gave. I mean, he led up to a 14-4 season, which during my preseason show back then, I picked the Vikings to win about 7 games. And for him to come in and be a part of doubling that, I give him a lot of credit. But I think he's a system guy. I thought he played in a great system last year. I thought KOC is really good at walking players through certain situations. And now that he's up in Seattle, he doesn't have his insurance policy in terms of KOC. He definitely doesn't have the weapons like Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson for the Minnesota Vikings. He doesn't necessarily have that stout running game. So I expect for him to struggle. You already see it. And I know a lot of people don't put stock in these mini camps, but there's been concern that he is throwing a lot of interceptions already up there. And I think you're going to see a lot more of that as the season progresses for Sam Darnold. So I'm right there with you, Hot Rod. I'm right there with you on that.
Good question, Sarah. Great question.
Great question.
Taking a question from my guy, Mike in Minneapolis. His question to us is, 3 the hard way. Is Anthony Edwards officially a top 5 player after this current playoff run? The key is top 5.
Wow.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that is. I don't know about top 5. However, I will say he's progressing in that direction, okay? And he said, hey, this offseason, I'm going to put the work in. I'm going to grind. And we're going to get better, and I'm going to get better. And I believe him, okay? I believe him. So, no, he's not top 5, but he's headed there. He's headed in the right direction. That's what I'll say. He's headed there.
Now, me, I'm going to say he's top 5, but he's number 5. That's where I'm going to put Anthony Edwards, watching him during the playoffs. Like I said, the kid is special. I see a lot of just raw talent out of Anthony Edwards. And I said this on the show before, when he figures it out, Anthony Edwards is going to be unguardable once he figures it out. Right now, he's just moving on sheer athleticism, and he still can put people in the basket. He's now developed a 3-point shot, but now it's the cerebral side of the game that Anthony Edwards has to figure out. And once he figures it out, then he's going to be unstoppable. So I'm putting him at number 5. There are 4 other players that are ahead of him. I'm not saying that he's top, that he's, barrel. No, but I think he's at number 5. And if you mess around, it'll be at number 6. He's got the potential. And I've seen it in him. So I say he's top 5, but he's number 5.
Yeah, and if he can just minimize some of the distractions off the court, and I know that's got to be hard. It's got to be tough. He's a young, good-looking man with a lot of money, how would I put it? And we all like to have fun. I know I sure like to have fun, too. But if he can just kind of minimize those distractions and be locked in to every day, putting in work, locked in, putting in work. And yeah, he's headed there. He definitely is. I'll take him on my team in a heartbeat, I'll tell you that.
If I'm Minnesota, I'm really taking a shot to bring in Kevin Durant. And let me explain real quick why. Because Kevin Durant has been through it. He's the adult in the room. He's a premier scorer. And he's actually someone who Anthony Edwards has idolized. Who can better get a hold of that young man and say, okay, dude, I'm 35, 36 years old. I ain't got that much longer in this game. But let me show you what you need to do and how you need to do it. I would flip that bill to try to bring in a Kevin Durant to have, because I know you have Julius Randle, and Julius Randle he's a man, don't get me wrong, but is he that kind of dude that can sit Anthony Edwards down and say, look, young fella, here's where you need to be. Like I remember a quick story. Charles Oakley slapped a taste out of Vince Carter's mouth over there when in Toronto, because he told him, he said, you are the best player on the floor. You're not playing like it. You need to take over. And that's what Anthony Edwards needs. He needs that premier Hall of Fame scorer who can come in and say, okay, young fella, I see how you jumping over everybody, but let me show you how to find your spot, and here's how you kill them in the mid-range. So
There
that,
you go.
that's what I'm saying, the cerebral side of the game.
Yeah, and KD you can get at a discount too, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that'll cost
I
you that
don't
much.
know. Yeah, I don't know. I've been watching this thing for a long time. My take on Anthony Edwards, to answer Mike's question, I will say yes, he's top 5. He's top 5. But I think two things can be true at the same time. I haven't liked his playoff finishes the last 2 years.
Right.
I think there's a level of being passive in certain moments that I just don't like from Anthony Edwards. It's not his body of work. I mean, as a Timberwolves fan, he's had the best probably body of work at this age than any Timberwolf that has ever put on the uniform. So I give Anthony Edwards all of the kudos in that department. But now that you're there, part of his maturity has to be to show up in those moments. I mean, we just sat here and talked about Halliburton. And I know Halliburton is older than Anthony Edwards, and we've got to give Anthony Edwards that time to mature, to be able to develop into something like that. But that's the direction that he has to go. And it's my only critique on Anthony Edwards. But yes, he is top 5. In terms of Kevin Durant, there's a lot of steam in Minneapolis about Kevin Durant coming to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Kevin Durant is 37 years old. And so it doesn't move the needle for me. And here's why it doesn't. Because I know Kevin Durant is a scorer, but you're going to lose a little bit of defense. You're going to lose a little bit of your ability to guard on the perimeter. You're going to lose some rebounding in terms of what you're going to have to give up to bring Kevin Durant on your team. Like, I don't know. The Minnesota Timberwolves, they've just got to be careful at this moment. Because I'm all on board with bringing Kevin Durant in, but what does your team look like once he gets there? What are you going to have to give up to bring in a guy like Kevin Durant? They've been talking about point guard for the Cavaliers. I'm zoning right now.
Darius Garland.
Darius Garland, same deal. Darius Garland is a great player at this age level. But to get a Darius Garland, let's just say hypothetically the Cavs, and I don't think they want to make this move, but let's say the Cavs want to make this move and send Garland to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Well, what are the Cleveland Cavaliers going to want back? Like, if I'm the Cleveland Cavaliers, I want to haul back. So now, what does the Minnesota Timberwolves team look like once you get Darius Garland? So I'm on board with the Minnesota Timberwolves bringing in somebody that moves the needle a little bit. I don't know who that is, but I'm not necessarily sold on Kevin Durant and Darius Garland. I don't know what moves they can make. I just know it's got to be a move where you're not depleting your roster.
No, that makes good sense. I mean, I understand your point when it comes to KD. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of development of Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards needs an adult in the room, and an adult that he can look to, because I kind of believe, and I could be totally off with this, but I kind of believe with Anthony Edwards, he looks at everybody on the Timberwolves side, and he says to himself, I'm better than all of these guys. I'm better than these guys. And so when you bring in someone of a Kevin Durant ilk, he can't look at KD even at 36 and say, I'm better than him. He can't, because KD is still a premier scorer. So now he's going to be amped to listen to when KD is like, all right, young fella, hold up. We need to handle this way. Because I don't think there's anybody in the organization right now that can go to Anthony Edwards, and say, okay, young fella, sit down here and let's have a conversation. You know what I mean? So, but I get what you're saying in terms of giving up pieces. Because if I'm the Cavaliers, if you take Darius Garland, I want Nas Reed, I want DiVincenzo, I want a couple picks. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna do that, if I'm gonna give up my young point guard to the Timberwolves, then you're gonna give me a haul back, okay? And so I completely understand. When you say top 5, I want Anthony Edwards. I root for the young man because, like I said, I see the athleticism in him. I see that he has the ability to take a game over when he feels like it. I think the problem with him is he knows it.
Yeah.
And he knows it, but there's nobody on that team that's going to poke the bear and say, hey, you need to get this done. We're only going to go as far as you take us.
Right. And I remember, L Train, you saying last week. I remember you saying that you don't know what pieces would come to Cleveland if the point guard went to the T-Wolves. You don't know what we would get in return, meaning us as Cavaliers fans. And one other thing, Kevin Durant loves the ball. He loves the ball. He loves to play basketball 24/7, and Edwards does too. So I think it would be a great fit, a great combination. I really do.
I hope I'm pronouncing this name right, but this guy's from Denver, Colorado. I think it's pronounced Nawu. Nawu, I believe it is. His question is a good one. If Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes have a bad season this year, I mean, a really bad season, I think that's what he's talking about. If they don't make a bowl game, they win about 4 or 5 games and they're not bowl eligible, is Deion Sanders still the coach of the Colorado Buffaloes the following year?
I think Deion will stay there as long as Deion wants to stay there, okay? I think he'll stay there. Last season was an improvement from, the season before. This year, haven't seen their schedule. Haven't, researched much about their incoming, recruits, what they got coming in. But to answer the young man's question, Deion will stay there as long as Deion wants to. I don't see them running him out of there,
First of all, Deion Sanders just signed an extension, so he's not going anywhere no time soon. Number two, the recruits that he brings in, and even now we aren't even talking to recruits, so to say, but if you look in the transfer portal, a lot of the kids that are transferring to Colorado, he brings star power to Colorado. He brings prestige to Colorado. Before Deion Sanders hit that campus, the closest thing that you remember in Colorado was Rashaan Salam.
Yes.
And that Colorado squad, okay?
Slash with Cordell Stewart.
Slash, Cordell Stewart. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't, even if, because he didn't have a great season this past season. It wasn't the greatest. So I don't see Deion. I agree. Deion's going to be there until he decides not to be there. I know a lot of people are trying to pull him away from Colorado to go to the pros. Deion Sanders, I don't see him right now. I don't see him ever being an NFL coach. I just don't.
I don't see it either.
Because his mindset is different. When you are the elite of the elites, it's hard for you to become a coach because your mindset is, I was an elite of the elites. Why do you think Michael Jordan never sat on the sidelines in an NBA game? Why he never coached? And he was a horrible GM. Why was he never there? Why did Magic Johnson didn't last very long? Why didn't Larry Bird want to be on the bench for very long? Because when you're the elite of the elites, and those young people come to you and they don't have that mindset, it's hard to put that in them. But to answer the question, once again, these some great questions by the fans. I might have to do this a little bit more often. No, Deion's not going anywhere until he feels like it.
Yeah, I agree with you. Number one, he's got an athletic director there in Colorado that supports him, that loves everything that he's doing. And I think Deion has not only transformed that team in terms of on the field stuff, but if you do your research, Deion is ingrained in that community as well in terms of doing things on and off the field. So Deion is going to be there to piggyback off what Hot Rod just said. He's going to be there until he doesn't want to be there.
Right.
And so that's where and I don't see this thing falling apart. Because the resources that he's able to bring in. I mean, guys, think about this. He's bringing in NFL-level players, NFL-level coaches to be a part of that program. That thing is not going to fall apart. Now, you're going to see a lot of hate from the national media because I do think that there's a pocket of the national media that doesn't want to see him succeed. But in terms of failing at Colorado, I just don't see that happening at all.
Right. What kid would not want to go in as a running back and their running back coach is Marshall Faulk?
Yeah.
What? How many defensive linemen would not want to go to Colorado and be taught by Warren Sapp? Are you serious? So that's what I'm saying. He brings a lot to Colorado, and so he'll leave when he feels like it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Leave on his own accord.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Another good question. Yeah.
Darren from New Orleans. Is Zion Williamson
Oh, geez.
done? That's the only thing he put in the email. Is Zion Williamson done for the Pelicans?
Go
He's
ahead,
not
T.
done, but he's headed for the done bus stop. He's headed for the done bus stop. No, he's not done. He's not done. He needs to get somewhere and be surrounded by some adults. That's what he needs. He needs to be surrounded by some adults that are going to hold him accountable and try to maximize his effort. It didn't work, unfortunately, in New Orleans. He needs to go be around some adults. He maybe needs to go to Golden State. He maybe needs to go to that Miami organization. Somewhere, again, where he's going to be held accountable. Indiana, somewhere where he can be held accountable. So, no, he's not done. He's not done. However, again, he's standing at the done bus stop. That's where he is, standing at the done bus stop.
I am just flabbergasted because Zion Williamson, when he came out of Duke, and I even followed that young man when he was in high school, he is an absolute freak of nature. For his size, the way that he can get off the ground is absolutely ridiculous. His basketball prowess is second to none for a guy his size. He reminds me of if Charles Barkley and Shawn Kemp had a kid, it would be Zion Williamson.
Yeah.
Now, the problem with Zion is off the court. It's off the court, and I can question his heart. Does he really enjoy playing basketball? Because of everything that's going on. So, I don't think he's done. But like T is saying, he's knocking on the door to AARP. That's what he's doing. He's knocking on the door. He does need to go to an organization that has adults. Okay, he does. And I just think right now, New Orleans, I mean, you had Larry Nance. He was there, then they traded him to Atlanta. CJ McCullough's been hurt. There's really no adults on that team. And so he just needs a change of pace. Now that Thibodeau is gone, I would have said New York would have been fine for him, but now that they got rid of Thibodeau, I don't know how that goes. But no, he's not done. But he knocking on the door.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he could be done, fellas. And not done in terms of not being able to be in the league, but I mean, he had all the hype coming out of high school, from high school to college, from college to the pros. I think he's done with that level of basketball. Like I just don't think he's ever going to be what everybody expected him to be. I think the rest of his career, because he has all the physical tools, especially if he stays in shape, he can be a really good, solid starter for you. And I think as the years start to filter on, he's going to be a rotational type player because he doesn't have a lot in his bag in terms of fundamentals and tools and stuff like that. So in terms of being that iconic superstar in the NBA, I think that's done. But I think he's got a lot of years left in the NBA. Like, I don't think he's going to fall off where he's going to have to play in the G League or go overseas or anything like that. But I think the years of him demanding top dollar for a contract, I think that's over for Zion Williamson. Great question, man. Great question. Another question from Deidre, who is in Arkansas. She says, "Hey, fellas, love the show. You guys can talk more women's sports if you want to." We talk a little bit of women's sports.
Yeah,
Come on, Deidre.
Yeah, we do.
Her question is, what is your biggest what if in sports that you can think of? And let me start with this because, I actually saw these questions before you guys, and I think this question deserves a little bit of thought. So I'm going to give you guys time to think. I'll go first on this one. My biggest what if in sports, and I've always thought about this, is what if the Cleveland Browns never went to Baltimore?
Mm-hmm.
When I look at the Ravens team and what they have been, especially that Super Bowl with Art Modell, which killed my soul. When I look at what they have turned into since that move from Cleveland, I think about what if that success had been in Cleveland, that Super Bowl had been in Cleveland. I mean, after they moved to Baltimore, who came in? Ray Lewis.
Yep.
Can you imagine Ray Lewis in brown and orange, man? For me, that is one of my biggest what if in sports. If that would have happened where would the Cleveland Browns franchise be right now? No excuses for the Browns. I mean, they've had opportunities to be really good, but I do think that move to Baltimore really set them back as a franchise. And so that's my biggest what if in sports.
Let me go, Rod. I got two, and I'm going to be real quick.
I do too, yeah.
I often say, what if George Steinbrenner, the late George Steinbrenner, who was from Northeast Ohio, had bought the Cleveland Indians instead of the Yankees?
That's a good one,
often ask that question. Now, people say it wouldn't have been to the great magnitude, the 20-plus championships like what they have in New York, because New York City is the largest city and has more resources.
Yes.
But I often wonder about that. If the late, great George Steinbrenner, again, who wanted to purchase the Indians, who, again, was from Northeast Ohio, had purchased the Indians. And my other one is, it popped up on my feed the other day, what if Lenny Bias would not have passed and entered the NBA, man? Oh,
T,
man.
you're bringing it right now, T.
Lenny Bias, the late Lenny Bias, the kid, the young kid. What if, man? Yeah.
Okay, so I got two. I don't know if it'll trump that. That Lenny Bias is a good one. That's a talk all by itself. But I got two. What if the WNBA would have came out in Cheryl Miller's prime?
Good one. That's a good one, Hot Rod.
Since I mean, we want to talk women's sports. I'll talk women's sports with you. I got no problem with it. Okay. Yeah. What kind of player would have Cheryl Miller been if the WNBA would have came out in her prime? Okay. All right. Yeah. That's one.
Records
Number two. What if Bo Jackson would not have hurt his hip?
Yeah.
Arguably, he would be mentioned with being one of the greatest running backs of all time.
Greatest athlete, period. Athlete, period.
Right.
Greatest athlete, period.
Can you imagine if Bo Jackson on that play playing Cincinnati would not have popped his hip out, if he would not have had a hip replacement? What kind of player? And he was a part-time player playing in the NFL, splitting time in Major League Baseball. Okay.
Great.
So yes, what if Bo Jackson wouldn't have popped his hip? And what if Cheryl Miller would have played in the WNBA in her prime?
Wow.
That's great.
Question. Love that question.
Y'all two brought it on that. Wow. If listen, man, if you're not happy with the answers to those questions, you could do a bunch of podcast videos about those answers right there on its own. That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So yeah, every now and then, man, we're gonna take some questions.
Yeah,
because that's gonna motivate
all
people.
Great questions.
All great questions. I liked it. I tried to pick some of the best ones out of the mailbag. Right now, before we get out of here, fellas, I got a little surprise for you. We're just going to play a little bit of a game really quick before we get to our start one, bench one, cut one, erase one, and then our parting shots. There's been a lot of talk about, really in all leagues I've heard, the WNBA, kind of Major League Baseball. I know, T, you're into Major League Baseball. The NBA and the NFL about faces of the league. That's the term that's being bounced around out there. Faces of the league, faces of the franchise. I'm going to throw some candidates out there, people that have been mentioned in terms of faces of these individual leagues. And I want you guys to kind of give your thoughts on, are they faces of the league? Should they be in that category in terms of being faces of the league, or absolutely not? So my first one is a NBA one. You look at a guy that just got hurt in the playoffs. His name is Jason Tatum, and he's been in the conversation for being the face of the league. Should he be in that conversation in terms of being face of the league, or absolutely not?
Yes, he should definitely be in the conversation. Okay, he's great. He's great. He's got a ring. He brings it. I beat him up a couple years ago when he missed a game for the little boy's birthday party in the middle of the week. But then again, kids want us there. They want you there. You can't say no, okay? And aside from that, they say that he's a little too boring. But I have no problem with it. Yes, the guy can be the face of the league. Yes, the kid could be the face of the league. No doubt. Yes, he could be.
What do you think, Rod?
He can be the face of the league, and what's funny is, especially in the NBA, they want the face of the league to be this big demonstrative type of individual, and that's just not Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum goes out, he plays every day, he goes hard. He's not. You don't hear about any off the court issues with him. You know what I'm saying? He brings his son to the games. He's got his son with him. He loves his mom. Yeah, I mean, the young man is what I believe the league should be. Now, is that what they want it to be? No. But I do believe, Jason Tatum can be the face of the NBA.
Yeah, in terms of what he's accomplished, in terms of his Olympic prowess, what he's done in the regular season playoffs, and then leading the Boston Celtics to a title, he has to be in that conversation. Whether or not he's the best player in the league, that's a whole different type of conversation, but I think he has to be in the conversation in terms of being the face of the league. He's got to be. Let's go to the NFL. Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, would you consider him in the conversation for being the face of the league?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Joe,
I
do. I do. Why not, Rob? Because Rob probably don't like because he's a bingo and he plays in our division.
But you also have
like
to understand.
Lionel, your dad didn't like Bob Trumpy when he used to call games because he was always against the Browns. Your dad hated Bob Trumpy. He could be right.
Now, I agree with Lionel's father. I didn't like Bob Trumpy either because every time Trumpy got on the mic, he was bashing the Browns. Every time. Every time. I didn't like Trumpy. Real quick, the reason, T, that I'm like with Joe Burrow is because to me, the face of the league is still Pat Mahomes. Until Pat Mahomes walks away, then Pat Mahomes is the face of the league. And then I'm be honest with you, if Pat Mahomes walks away, that boy in Buffalo, Josh Allen, okay, so I don't even look in that direction of Joe Burrow. I just don't. He's been to one Super Bowl.
Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen.
And you know what? You could be right. You could be right. But do you see now how far has Joe Burrow fallen? Now he's number 4. I don't see him as the face of the league. That's just me. But tell me yours, T. Come on, let's go.
Well, I'm okay with Joe Burrow being it. I am. He's from southeastern Ohio. Plays hard. Mm-hmm. He's gone into Kansas City and won a couple of times, and he would have won another if the referees would have cheated for Pat Mahomes because he gets all the calls. Pat Mahomes gets all the calls. So Joe Burrow, he could be the face of the league. I like Joe Burrow. I like Joe.
Listen, Joe. Listen,
y'all know he is. He's clutch.
People don't understand. I do not dislike Joe Burrow. Why? Because he was a Buckeye. Then he went to LSU. So I've always had love for Joe Burrow. Yeah. But I'm just saying, as long as Patty Mahomes is still slinging that rock in Kansas City, Patty Mahomes is the face of the league.
Man, this is a tough one. And the way I attack this question is I have to say no because. And I think it's about conversation. It's not necessarily who you're picking to be the face of the league, but do these players have a right to be in the conversation? So the way I attack it is, okay, how many faces of the league can we have? How many people are in that inner circle? And right now I got Pat Mahomes, I got Josh Allen, and then I got Lamar Jackson, and I haven't even touched any other quarterbacks on the NFC side. So I just think when you look at the AFC, I think Joe Burrow is great. I think he's probably number 4 on that list in the AFC, but he's on the outside looking in at the 3 quarterbacks that I just mentioned. So in terms of not saying that he's not good or great because he is, but in terms of face of the league, man, I don't know about that. I got a couple more for you guys. Some of these, man, are really, really intriguing. All right, now I want you to think about this in terms of, is this person, we just talked about Zion Williamson. The next couple names I'm going to give you, are these players overhyped? So the first name I'm going to give you that jumps off the page at me is Trae Young. Is Trae Young a really good player or is he overhyped, fellas?
Borderline. He can hit the 3. He can shoot the 3. Only time I remember him being great was when he said bye-bye to the Knicks and put them out. Just a great 3-point shooter. No, he's not face material. No. Maybe in Atlanta he is, but no, he's not. No.
Okay.
Now I want y'all to hear me closely when I say this. I think that Trae Young is a poor man's Seth Curry. Okay.
You said Seth.
I think he is a poor man's Seth Curry. I don't see Trae Young as the face of the league. Trae Young is a good player, but Trae Young to me does not move the needle in terms of when I come in. Now, when you go into Atlanta, you got to recognize him. Why? He's the best player on the Atlanta Hawks. But if you put him in New York, or you put him in San Antonio, or you put him even in Charlotte, he's not the best player on the floor. So
not even close.
And then he's a defensive liability. So I just no, he's a poor man's Seth Curry, not Steph Curry. Seth Curry.
You're right.
He's had his flashes. He's had his run, and I don't mean to disrespect him because I think he's a good player. But I liken him to what Lynn Sanity did during his time.
That's a good one too.
When he had that run, and you really haven't heard from Trae Young since he had that playoff run a couple years ago. So I do think he's overhyped, and I agree. If you put him in the New York market or on another team, I don't think he is the same player. He's small. He really can't guard anybody. He's a high-volume scorer. So I definitely think he is overhyped. I got another one for you, fellas, and this one can go in any direction. So I am really interested to hear your thoughts. Jimmy Butler, overhyped, or is he really playoff Jimmy?
So I'm gonna let me get with this, T, because Jimmy buckets. Just look
buckets.
Look at where he's when he left. Look at what happened to the teams that he's left. When he left Chicago, they didn't win. When he left Philadelphia, they didn't win. When he left Miami, you saw Miami against the Cavaliers. Tell me Jimmy Butler wouldn't have changed that series. He would have. Then look at what he did out at Golden State. Golden State went on a run. The only reason that they lost in the playoff, Steph got hurt because him and Steph were playing off each other. Jimmy Butler's a legit player. It's just get away from all the off the court antics, the coloring of the hair and all that other nonsensical stuff, and just look at Jimmy Butler for how he plays. Jimmy Butler's a good player.
I say his best playing days are behind him. When he was with those organizations, Rod, he made a difference. He did. And he brought it, and he's a gamer, and he was a gamer. I just think, his best days are behind him. And it showed this last, run for him with Golden State when Steph went down. He couldn't put that team on his shoulders and make things happen. So, again, his best playing days are behind him. At one time, he was that guy. I remember when he was with the Bulls, and they used to, go pound for pound, toe-to-toe against us when he was in his early prime. But again, his best days are behind him. Best days are behind him.
But let me say this to you, T. Who was the next best player on the Golden State Warriors? Was it Draymond Green? Was it Buddy Hield? Who did he have? After Steph left, who did Jimmy Buckets have? He didn't have anything. Is he capable of carrying a team now? No, he's beyond that. But can he be a good contributor to a good team? Yeah. When Steph went down, he had to carry the load. Jimmy Butler is not capable of carrying that load anymore.
Right. And I really didn't expect him to carry the load, but others did. A lot of people did, and a lot of, key people in the media beat him up and said, hey, man, you came up short. You should have been able to, get that team, close to, get them further than what you did. And he wasn't able to. And a lot of people beat him up, but I didn't expect him to be able to do that. I didn't expect him. Let
me say this to you quick, T. Would you take him as a Cavalier?
Yeah, I would. In
right
a heartbeat.
now.
Yeah, I would. Just for his toughness.
Answer your question.
What's toughness?
Yeah. Jimmy, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of Jimmy Butler. But I recognize his impact on teams. Right. And every team that he has gone to, he has made an impact. I mean, even though they came up a little bit short this year in the playoffs in terms of Golden State, where was Golden State before he arrived?
Exactly.
And look at the run that they made after he arrived. I mean, he is no matter what you think about him, he is very impactful. My pushback has always been, I think some of the national media try to put him up there with some of the elites, and I don't think he is an elite basketball player, but he is one of the most impactful basketball players that there's ever been in the NBA. Does he bring a lot of baggage and drama sometimes? Absolutely, because I don't think he's ever left anywhere happy. He's always upset when he leaves, but I don't think
the door on the way out.
I don't think he's overhyped. My next one, fellas, we got to be careful with this one because this one, I guarantee you, no matter what way you answer it, we are going to get some backlash this week on this one, regardless of how you answer it. Is this player overhyped? The player that I'm mentioning right now is Angel Reese from the Chicago Sky. Overrated, overhyped, or is she a baller?
She's a baller. She's a baller. Yeah, she's a baller. How would I put it? She's a double-double machine. She knows how to market herself off the court, off the floor. She's her own brand. I have no problem with that young lady, and I root for her and I pull for her, okay? Now, is she a better all-around player than Caitlin Clark? No, she's not. But she doesn't have to be. She's got her own thing going. So, no, she's cool. I'm okay with where she is. Yep.
For me, I think she's a really good ball player. I won't take her athleticism, her ability to rebound the ball, her ability to get up and down the floor. Listen, y'all, we are in the internet age. We are in the social media age. So she is utilizing all of her tools to market herself. We can't knock this young lady for doing something that Shaquille O'Neal did many moons ago when he was doing Shazam and he was out making rap songs with the Fushnikins. We can't be angry with this young lady because she's trying to market her brand. We can't. Okay, so you can get upset with her as much as you want and be critical of her because, you know, of what she says in the media and things of that nature. You know what? My thing is, if you don't like what she's saying, stop listening. But in terms of her basketball prowess, she can play. She can go. She can. Else she wouldn't be in the WNBA. Okay, those ladies are no slouches. Those ladies can ball. They can hoop. Okay, so Angel Reese can ball. People just got to get away from her off the court stuff. But like I said, I'm not angry with her because she's marketing herself. That's what she's supposed to do. That's the way the social media landscape has made it nowadays, to market yourself. And Caitlin Clark is doing the same thing. She's doing State Farm commercials.
Yes,
so don't, you know what I'm saying? Play both ends, okay?
There you go.
Now, as T said, is she better than Caitlin Clark? No. Is she in that upper echelon of young ball players? Yes, she absolutely is. So she's not overrated. She can play.
She can play.
Yeah, Angel Reese is a baller.
Yes,
and I think a lot of the venom that she receives, and she's critiqued very harshly when it comes to her game, is because she's attached at the hip with Caitlin Clark. They are rivals, and it just boils down to this: if you're a fan of Caitlin Clark, it's almost like you can't be a fan of Angel Reese. And vice versa. So that's where a lot of the venom comes from. I love it how when you go on like TikTok or Instagram or any of these places in terms of social media, where they're always putting up these highlights of Angel Reese trying to say that she's inflating her rebounding stats. So what they show is her missing a bunch of shots near the basket, getting those rebounds and put them back in. And I have to chuckle at that, fellas, because I coach college women basketball. And I'm not saying anything bad about women's sports, but I've just been around college basketball long enough to know on the women's side is that that's the way some players primarily score. Mm-hmm. There's just a lot more missed layups in the game.
Right.
They can't play above the rim. You're not seeing a whole lot of slam dunking, you know. So you see a lot of missed stuff going to the baskets, and some people have those quick twitch fibers in their legs. They can get up and stick it, and that's where their stats come from. But I think the social media kind of uses that to kind of downgrade what Angel Reese brings to the table. Angel Reese played at LSU. Mm-hmm. Angel Reese was a high school All-American. Angel Reese is one of the best players in the WNBA. She is a straight-up, flat-out baller, in my opinion. I just think she's over-critiqued because her and Caitlin Clark are kind of attached at the hip.
And here's the thing, man. If you worried about her inflating her rebounding stats, how about you box out? Box her out so that she can't get it. And then we had, I said this before, Moses Malone did the same thing.
Yeah, he
Yes.
did.
And he
did.
taught how to throw the ball off the backboard, get his own rebound, and that gave him 2 rebounds. So that, come on, man. Stop it.
Keep it from under that basket if you don't like it. Right.
Yeah,
Stop
box
it.
out. Go
Stop
back
it.
to your fundamentals.
Great takes, fellas. Great takes. We're going to do a little bit of that each week. I mean, there's just a lot of thoughts out there that, I think, that we don't really get a chance to talk about and analyze. So we're going to bring more of that to the show. I really, really like those type of segments. I believe this week, though, is T's turn for start one. I got my pen ready. Start one,
I got a
bench
tough one
one,
for y'all.
cut run.
I got a tough
Right.
one. I got a tough one. I got a tough one. And I was going to go in a couple of different directions, but I said, no, I got these 2 basketball heads, these 2 hoop heads. So here we go. In the world of college basketball, men's college basketball, on the coaching side, I got 4 iconic coaches.
Oh,
4 iconic coaches, okay? And the first one will be the late, great John Thompson Jr. John Thompson Jr., the late, great from Georgetown Hoyas. Second one, Mr. Dean Smith. Dean Smith, UNC legend. Dean Smith, okay? Third person, Coach Mike Krzyzewski. Coach K.
This is tough, man.
This is a tough one. Tough one. And last but not least, the late, great Bobby Knight. Indiana Hoosiers. That's right. Coach
Why are
Knight.
you doing this to us, T?
That's right.
Why are you
Coach
doing this
Knight.
to us, man?
This is a tough one. I said, let me throw it at these 2 hoop heads. These 2 hoopsters. So there you go. Go ahead, Rod.
Rod, you want to go first or you want me to tackle it?
Nah, I'll go at it.
Okay.
I'll be the controversial one this week. All right, so we're going to start the legendary Dean Smith. I'm going to bench Coach Krzyzewski. I am going to cut John Thompson, and I'm going to erase the general, Bobby Knight.
Oh.
Wow.
Woo.
Wow.
Rod.
How do you follow that up? How do you follow that up?
I am going to go, and I know this is in North Carolina. This is probably blasphemous, but I am going to go Coach K. I'm going to start Coach K. Coach K goes to an unknown private school, turns that thing around, and to win the amount of championships in the games that he's won, he's number 1 on my list. Then I got to go with and bench Dean Smith, one of the greatest coaches of all time. I am going to cut John Thompson, one of the I idolize John Thompson. I've read a lot of his books. I've studied his philosophy and his game. I've built my philosophy out of what John Thompson did. One of the greatest coaches of all time, John Thompson. And I will erase Bobby Knight. I recognize the greatness, all of the coaching stuff, not the hugest fan about how he went about things at times, but I do recognize the greatness of the general Bobby Knight. So I start Coach K, I bench Dean Smith, I cut John Thompson, and I erase Bobby Knight. Good one, T.
Wow.
Good one.
Wow. Okay, I'll close it out. I'm going to start the late, great John Thompson Jr. I'm going to start him. I am going to bench the great Dean Smith. I'm going to bench Dean Smith.
Okay.
I'm going to cut the late, great Bobby Knight. Going to cut him. And I'm going to erase Coach K from Duke.
Wow, that hurt.
Coach K.
Duke fans, forgive us. Forgive us, Duke fans. Don't stop watching us. Don't stop watching us. We're all right.
That's it.
Wait a minute. You got to give me 30 seconds here. Coach K.
Go ahead, Rod.
Coach K. Tell me why. No, I want you to know, why are we erasing Coach Krzyzewski?
How would I put it? And you like I say, this was tough, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
This was a tough one. How would I put it? And he coached those Olympic teams too. Great. You know, Kobe has nothing but the late great Kobe had nothing but respect for Coach K. LeBron loves him. You know, they all have nothing but respect for him. But out of those three, maybe because he's the baby of the three. maybe that's the direction I went in. Okay.
Okay.
He's the pupil, because I'm sure he would tell you himself that he looked up to those other three. I never forget. I years ago on the team radio station in Washington D.C. That John Thompson, Smoking Al Coken, Rick Doc Walker used to be on. Who they had Coach Knight on as a guest, and he was on for about 30 minutes. He and John Thompson were talking hoops, and at the very end, over the radio, the coach, Bobby Knight, broke down and cried and said to Coach Thompson, "I'm glad you were always my friend when they came at me. You were always my friend." And I can still hear that in my, in my mind, in my head. It was a beautiful exchange between, two great coaches. Yep. So this was a tough one. There's no wrong answer with any of these either.
I have nothing but the utmost love and respect for John Thompson. To me, the greatest big man coach of all time is John Thompson to me. You know what I'm saying? When you look at Othello Harrington, Alonzo Mourning, Dikembe, the late Dikembe Mutombo, you know what I mean? When you look at Patrick Ewing, you look at those guys, and even the other, you throw Allen Iverson in there. He saved Allen Iverson's life. Here's another quick what if. What if Shaquille O'Neal would have went to Georgetown?
That would have been nasty work. That would have been nasty work at Georgetown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I would even say one more thing, T. I love that you started him, because here's how I'll mic drop John Thompson. I guarantee you his path was a lot harder than the other three.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Absolutely.
I guarantee you that.
Absolutely. And when you say Georgetown, you got to say John Thompson.
Yes. All right, fellas, it's time for our parting shots. T, what do you got, man?
I have to go with what Coco Gauff did this weekend, no doubt. Winning the French Open, it hadn't been done in 10 years since Serena did it, and she did it with class. Her opponent tried to say, hey, I didn't play that well, or if she would have gone up against other people, the heck with that. Coco Gauff, hands down, the face of women's tennis, her. Coco Gauff. Yep.
For me, I want to shout out a local high school here in Arizona. It's called Agua Fria High School. They were founded in 1955, and they just hired their first African-American head coach. I had the privilege of coaching there for a few years. And so this is their first African-American head coach. Had an opportunity to meet the gentleman. Great man. And so shout out to Agua Fria High School for breaking the barrier after so many years and allowing, this coach to come in. So
love it. My parting shot goes to a former Minnesota Viking and a former Ohio State Buckeye, Mr. Jim Marshall, who passed away this week. That is my parting shot. I have a really quick story. I had an opportunity to meet John Marshall, and, it was really in passing. Never thought that I would get an opportunity to meet one of the greats. A really good buddy of mine is John Turner, Minnesota Vikings great. Shout out to John because he watches the show. He took me to a Minnesota Vikings game and just gave me access. It was one of those games where all the alumni came back from the Minnesota Vikings. So I got a chance to break bread with Chuck Foreman. I got a chance to just meet some of the guys that I idolized as a kid growing up, being a Cleveland Browns fan. And I had an opportunity to meet him, and just his humbleness and me being really a nobody in terms of in the NFL, just some of the conversations that we had that day was just fantastic. And I really hadn't thought about him since that day, to be quite honest with you, unless something came up with the Minnesota Vikings. But to hear that he passed away, my first thought was that day. And so it's just been something that hit me really hard when I heard that he passed away, because I had such a fantastic day. Jim Marshall is my parting shot for today, fellas.
Jim Marshall.
And he should be in Canton in the Hall of Fame. I don't know why he's not there.
And
they weren't counting sacks back then.
That he is not in Canton.
Exactly. Purple
that
people leader. Purple people leader.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, another great show, fellas. 3 the hard way. Thanks for all the feedback. Thanks for all the subscribers, man. We jumped in subscribers this past week. Thanks for all the people that are staying engaged with the show. We're growing this thing, man. Me, T, Hot Rod, we are growing this thing. We're going to keep pumping out the content because we like doing it. Please take the time to hit that like and subscribe button to keep us in the algorithm that helps us produce the content that we produce for you guys. So just take the time. It only takes a second. Hit that like and subscribe button to keep this thing going. Hot Rod T, I appreciate your time, man.
Likewise, and you gentlemen have a great week. Have a great week.
Everybody, have a great week. Make your week. Don't let your week make you.
That's right. 3 the hard way. 3 the hard way. We will make sure to see you when we see you. Later.